join us during our kickoff webinar for the multi-model contest. So, okay, everyone, I'm really glad to welcome you here on our. So I will start my video. Sorry, yeah. In our first contest in this new 2021, it's a contest on the topic in InterSystems InterSystems Aries multimodal contest. So we invite you to build solutions against InterSystems Aries, which will use multimodal feature of InterSystems Aries. And here today we are having product managers of InterSystems, Robert Kuszewski, product managers of developer experience, and also Benjamin DeBoer and Stefan Wittmann. So we have 3 product managers of InterSystems here. So really glad to see you guys. And actually, the agenda for today is very simple. So our product managers will speak about models, data models, different data models, and the whole concept of multi-model in InterSystems Aries, and how you can use it, and actually how we want you to use these different models in your solutions in this contest. And then we will make some demos how these models work and how you can use it in your solutions. So okay, will be the first. So Benjamin, Stefan, Bob. So okay, Benjamin, yes, sorry. So
sorry, I messed something up, but here we are. So thanks, Evgeny, and welcome everyone, and Happy New Year as well from Belgium. So I wanted to just give a really quick brief intro on where we're coming from, what's underneath, what's behind this whole multimodal idea of InterSystems Aries, and then hand it back to Evgeny for a wonderful demo that kind of exemplifies what it really is, what you can do with this multimodal platform. So a multimodal platform. So the whole idea behind this, or where we're coming from, and this is part history and part the power of this platform, and that's really how we built this multimodal platform. So we started off with a data engine that you could call it a key value store, a fast key value store that just was built from the ground up to be scaling vertically across the whole spectrum of hardware infrastructure that you could put underneath. So this is where you should picture globals. So the direct, sort of the data abstraction that's at the core of InterSystems Aries and of Cache before that. So that's our core data engine, and that's and around that we've added over time we've added a distributed coherent cache, and you can think of that as the enterprise cache protocol as a means to kind of project the information that's in your core data engine across a number of nodes in a coherent cache. And this is not just kind of a standalone or a different system. This is really the same technology. This is the same stack. This is the same semantics as if you were talking to your data locally. You can talk to it through one of those ECP app servers, and you'll get the same transactional consistency, the same mechanics really. So that really allows you to easily scale up for higher user workload. And it's around that, and this is where we're finally coming to the topic of this month's contest, where we're adding our data models. So for SQL, for objects, for documents, we've built APIs on top of this. And that's the important thing to keep in mind, that all of this is built on top of that coherent cache, on top of that data engine. So you'll transparently get the benefits of transactional consistency, of scalability that you got from those. It's also at this layer, data model by data model, that we've added our sharding capability, so that you wouldn't be only scaling for user workload by user, so to say, but also you can partition your data and scale horizontally across the data axis, if you will. So this is another way of putting it. So we're starting from that internal storage format, that those the globals that you're, I assume or hope or guess you're all familiar with, at least by the end of this contest, who are fully transactional, fully synchronized, and fully optimized, regardless of which data model that you're looking at. If you think about some of our customers that are exploiting this at really the upper end of the scale spectrum in financial services, we've got one that is pushing financial transactions in through an object paradigm, but then simultaneously querying it through the SQL paradigm. So that's a great example of a customer that's really exploiting it, that synchronization aspect. And to make things even better, they're doing so across the enterprise cache protocol. So they're really a great example of putting this in practice. Now, just to start off with the two main or the two most used abstract data models, not counting globals themselves for a second. So objects as a classic object-oriented programming paradigm, and SQL as something standards-based. How those we compare to one another. So object is more ID-based retrieval. You use object code to get to one record and then maybe get to related records through some object relationships that you define. Whereas in SQL, it's all through this standardized language, for this standardized querying language to retrieve not just individual rows or sets of rows, but also include some whole computations, express computations and aggregations in the query language. Interacting with the data in terms of modifying the data goes through regular OO operations and insert, update, delete. So that's DML, data modification language in SQL. And then if you want to plug in some additional code that gets triggered, there's on before and on after callbacks in the OO variation. And then in SQL, it goes through triggers and business logic in stored procedures. The object model has a couple of other very nice features, such as inheritance, also multiple inheritance on Iris, procedure code. All of that is transparently projected to SQL. So in SQL, you can query for the individual entrants in your inheritance hierarchy without having to worry much about it. It's all transparently projected. And on the SQL end, you will also benefit from some other features that you inherited from the OO side, such as object valued properties and the associated arrow syntax in SQL, etc. So this is an example of two data models that are nicely aligned with one another. Now, there are, if you're thinking about other data models, how can you tie them together? How can you easily leverage code work where you're working directly with globals, with that lowest level abstraction? How can you expose that through SQL? There's two mechanisms that are sort of two sides of the same coin. The functional index interface is a really great way to plug in code that interferes or kind of kicks off or hooks into the insert, update, and delete statements, where you can work with generated code that automatically populates your data structures. We've used that internally for our SQL search, formerly known as iFind. There's a really great article on the developer community that are using it for spatial indices. And that's for building those data structures, your own data structures that are specific to your data model. And then to query those from SQL, you can use the abstract find interface and implement it to have your own filtering predicates. Again, this is something that we used on the in the iFind context to have your iFind predicates, your iFind full text search syntax that gets interpreted, that gets run against those index structures that were built using functional index, and that are then accessible directly in SQL. And there's a bunch of other things. For example, actually your all-time favorite package from OpenExchange, the EPM, uses abstract find under the hood also for a couple of its own search things. So this just to give you some examples, give you some references for both. There is excellent class reference documentation on what you need to get started, and that's just the starting point to give you some ideas of how you can tie in SQL to these. So for the contest, I don't know if Stefan and Bob want to chime in and want to add something about other data models or give some additional pointers.
Thanks.
Sure. Go ahead, Stefan.
I was about to say the same, but but thanks, Benjamin, for this nice overview. Just to make this a bit more complete, obviously, you can also think about the document data model. That's something we also have in the product. We're not really pointing it out too much here because we know that the use cases for it are quite limited. If you have an application or you want to write something that definitely fits into what the document model supports, then please don't shy away, right? Do that and let us know if it works for you or not. But if you want to build something that's more complex, then you might either think about building one of your own. That's one of the options as well. In this contest, it's very flexible design. So you either can build an application that leverages multiple of these data models that Iris offers in a very effective way, or you can decide, or you can decide to build your own data model of your own, either something that's proprietary or even better, something that's standard compliant, even if it's just a limited scope, and experiment a little bit with that. So the contest by itself is really flexible, and I encourage you to play a bit with it.
Bob, did you want to add?
Yeah, thanks for that. So two things that I wanted to point out is that the native API will allow you from a client side to kind of build whatever data model you want, right? Access globals directly, but it'll also allow you to access all of the things that Benjamin and Stefan were just talking about from a client application. So if in the design of your system, you say, oh man, I need to use this, but I need to use it from a client perspective, maybe a middleware type of scenario, the native API will allow you to do that in a pretty straightforward way. The other thing to point out is, one of the areas with new data models, if you are going to build another data model, like a graph data model or something, right, that people struggle with are the client applications. So the more you can think about making your client application, your API compatible with like an existing graph client API, or things along those lines, so it makes it very easy for them to use or to leverage work they might already have in place, that would certainly go a long way to success in this project as well.
Great. So indeed, Stefan and Bob already mentioned a couple of these. So ideas for what you can submit to this contest is a combination of some of the supported data models in a single application. Bonus points for real world data, as always. literally, we'll see about that. But Evgeny is going to show an example of that that uses that combines a number of different data models. But then, as Stefan and Bob pointed out, implementing an industry standard or an established API on top of the models that we have is really nice. And you wouldn't be the first one, because we have a couple of community projects already that implement, for example, TriaDB, implementing a graph interface. There's this spatial index on the developer community that implements just a tiny little bit of the full breadth of spatial, but a crucial one. For document databases, there's the omnipresent MongoDB API, et cetera, So this is just to give you some ideas of if you're thinking about implementing a standard interface, or if you're thinking about showcasing your mastery of globals and smart global structures. Think about some of these as the APIs through which you want to expose your great implementation of an additional data model. These are some of the technology bonuses. Fine print is forthcoming on how exactly we'll qualify this, because of course you can write a 3-line object script application that already uses globals, objects, and SQL in just 3 lines. But we'll get you that. And without further ado, I'll hand it back to Evgeny for a really neat demo that combines some of these data models already.
Yes, thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Bob. Also, we have Raj Singh here, our yet another product manager. So actually, what I want to invite all the participants of our kickoff webinar. So please go ahead, ask your questions to product managers or anything. Not maybe even related to the particular contest. So if you have questions, just don't miss the opportunity to ask it today. And yeah, we will answer. We will give you the opportunity to ask questions, and then I will follow up with the demo. So actually, what do we have here? We have a question: if AutoML SQL uses multimodal functions, right? So from Yuri. So who could answer that?
I can take that. I was already typing the answer, but it's faster to speak up. So our integrated ML feature was conceived as a SQL feature. So we built it to be part of the SQL language of a proprietary extension to the SQL standard. And because we have this multimodal facility in Iris, you can access pretty much anything through SQL. So you can also project data that you've stored in globals or your documents. You can project those and access those from SQL. So by writing the right SQL statement, you would be able to build a model on it in integrated ML.
Yuri, if it answers your question, so if not, please go follow up in chat or in loud. And also, we have another question from Yuri again. Yuri is very active. So do we have plans to have a spatial model versus geographic data, like Oracle spatial? Who could answer that?
I can take this one. Well, as always, we're looking into all options for expanding our data model support, but this is nothing we have on our short list for, let's say, the first half of this year. Probably even not the later part of this year, I guess. It's always something interesting, and there are various dimensions and scopes how you could implement something like this, right? So there are some community projects that already help you with this, where you can basically just work properly with lat-long values that you store in properties and run queries against those. That's already really helpful for these kinds of scenarios. But a proper spatial model support is definitely a bit more intense to support. So not on the short list.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. And so,
Evgeny,
yeah.
can I add to that?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Hey, everybody, this is Raj. So, as Stefan said, there are no short-term plans, which I think is an opportunity for this community. Whereas if you feel like you can implement something very useful in the spatial area, we would give you as much support as possible. Hint, hint. So I have a lot of background in spatial data. I can help with deciding, what functionality would be most useful, especially in standard-based spatial functionality. I can be a lot of help there because I worked in standards community for many years. So I'm a personal fan, and I would be a big champion of somebody working on spatial data support.
So I think you are encouraged to implement special index model in this contest, and I think you have all the support from Raj Singh and actually maybe all the support from product managers for any models you want to follow up. So please use developer community and Discord, asking your questions and looking for the support, and you will have it. Okay, so I think now we don't have any more questions so far, and I will do a short demo of how the multimodal solution could look like for this contest. So I'll share my screen now. Okay, and so what do we have here? It's Open Exchange, where you can find Iris multimodal API template module, and actually we will use it now. This is the example of multimodal application I recently submitted to Open Exchange, which uses and the application itself is a REST API application which introduces several API endpoints which deal with the data on Iris side using different data models which InterSystems Iris exposes and provides. So let's go ahead, and I will. This is a template, so I can create a new repository using this template. So let's Iris multimodal demo, and so I'm creating this as a new repository on GitHub. Yep, and I clone it and open it in Visual Studio Code because it has all the necessary things for you to develop solutions with InterSystems Iris, like Object Script plugin and things like that. So I clone it in this new folder and open this folder in Open Exchange in Visual Studio Code. So to let it work on your laptop, you need to have InterSystems Object Script and server and language server extensions installed, and Docker. And if you have this, so you are able to right-click on Docker Compose and restart Docker, build it. Actually, I think I have another one running, so I will stop what I do have here. Yes, it tells me that that the port already allocated. It's okay. So I will just restart it once I have other containers stopped. Okay, great. And so we have Iris container running, and what else do we have here? It's a handy object script menu, which first I refreshed it, and then we have all the handy menu options which helps us to develop faster. And for example, this multimodal REST link, which is in fact linked to a Swagger module, which exposes the API of this particular template and all the entries we can play with and demo the multimodal concept. Before we start working with the API, I will show you some inside parts of this repository. So let's see what do we have here. This repository consists of persistent class. It's very simple class which contains a few properties, and it is persistent, and also it uses some interfaces which helps to populate data, some random data, and JSON adapter class which helps to deal with JSON transformations and serialization. So it's very, very simple. So few properties and method which generates data using the populate adapter, right? So this is our persistent class, and another is a multimodal REST class which exposes API and entry points, endpoints, which and actually let's examine it. What do we have here? So we have an entry multiple, and then like object and for example for getting like object and then ID, which helps you to get the entry of the record persistent class with the object API, and the same with the SQL, and then with the key value, and same for this is for like getting data, and this for like deleting data via object, SQL, or key value. So, and if we check how it is implemented, so we can go to, for example, get person object. So we can see that get person object uses an object or model of InterSystems Iris and opens an instance using %openID method of the persistent class, and the SQL one uses SQL query and does exactly the same as object method, but using SQL, right? And also same as the object method, it returns JSON data to the REST API, and this method does it with JSON export from JSON adapter, and SQL method does it with just internal function with the library function, right? JSON from SQL. And also another example which works again, which uses key value part of InterSystems Iris key value API, or also known as globals, our famous globals. So here we get the data using the parameter global, and actually, so we can go to definition, right, and see that this is the global which contains the data for this persistent class, and we got it from the storage, right, storage definition from here. So okay, great. So yeah, and then we use JSON feature, JSON capabilities of object script to create a dynamic array and fill some data, and just use the to JSON % to JSON method to return the data, but So how we retrieved it? We retrieved it using the key value like $get function. Okay, this was information for developers how it works when you deal with Iris using different data models via object script. And let's see if it really works here. So okay, so okay, let's go back to the Swagger API. So what do we have here? One thing we have is we are having its method which generates data in this for this class, some random data. So we can say, okay, let's create two records. Yes, it says 200, which means that probably we have some records. We can use another entry and execute and see if we really have something. Yes, we do. Okay, that's great. And so then let's and I know that the idea when you start doing creating when you start dealing with data with persistent classes in Iris, the ID usually starts from 1. So if we ask to retrieve the data of the record with ID 1, so we could expect some result here. So yes, so it returned us some person Palladino, Frances Palladino, very familiar surname, but pretty random, I think. We are using object API. So let's try a similar thing for using SQL. So let's try it out and use the record 1. And yes, we are having same Palladino, but but the data returned with SQL. And then let's go and use key value API. Okay, and we have the result. You may notice that it is JSON, but it's different. And this is intentionally because if you look, for example, to our key value method, we really didn't expose all the data. We just took three fields of the this class we have here. Great. And so what? For example, we can. What else we can do? We can change this data. So let's get this JSON from this Palladino and the person and use the object method for changing the data, which calls the put request. And we can put a JSON here and like change the name like James and execute. So we are doing an object. We are using. So we have it to 200. So hopefully the data was changed using object API, right? And so let's retrieve the changed data using, for example, SQL 1. So let's execute again and see that something went wrong. So maybe I'll use the key value one. I see Palladino Frances, but I think this is because the put method didn't work well. So there is some bug there, but so I will fix it maybe to the contest, but it should work. And I think this was a clear demonstration that we really have different different models and different APIs to them, which you can use simultaneously in one application. And as our product manager said today already, so all the models, they all have some advantages, some use cases, which you can combine in your application and get the most value of InterSystems Iris in your solution. And maybe, and speaking about this bug, maybe I hope we will do pull request and like fix it. But this is easy part. So what else do we have here? So also there are like delete methods implemented using different APIs, and we can, like, for example, if we go and use like delete for SQL thing, try it out. Let's do one and execute. So it was deleted, and then we will execute, get some data. So maybe something doesn't work again, but let's just see how it is implemented. So if we check what is the difference, so with delete again we use SQL query which runs against this class DC sample person, and this is for SQL. And just if we use, for example, key value, we just kill the node in a global. And with the object API, we are using delete ID method. So basically, this is it, what I wanted to share with you. And of course, so let me stop sharing. Of course, this was what I just showed. It was the usage of ObjectScript and REST API to work with different data models on the Iris side. This was like ObjectScript. But you, as you already know, and we also have a native API which you can use to deal with different data models on Iris side using like Python or Node.js or .NET or Java. And also we are having ODBC and JDBC interfaces which provide you SQL engine which we can use and deal with our different models. It's not as straightforward. SQL is like straightforward here, but yes, you can leverage again maybe with the storage procedures or queries, class queries, our different data models on Iris side. So, and actually, if you have any questions, please. Happy to answer. Or maybe product managers, do you have any like comments on the demo? So maybe I missed something.
I would just say, Bob, this is great timing again.
And once again, I will let you go first.
Thank you, so kind. I just wanted to say, whether something is straightforward for you or not definitely depends on your background, right? SQL is probably really straightforward for many of you, but nevertheless, right, if you happen to work a lot in key value stores, then globals and the native API in general also will be really helpful and straightforward to you. So it really just depends on your background. So take a look at the documentation and see what's available to you. It splits out all the available models and the clients to that, I think, in a really easy way. So just take a look at that and find something that fits your needs and the knowledge that you have. Or dive into something that you've never really worked on as a focus and learn something new. That's also always good. Over to Bob.
You said it even better than I was going to say it, so you made my point for me already.
Yeah, I think I want to affirm that once more. The thing I showed about how SQL and objects kind of interrelate with one another that's already done. So you can exploit that as part of an application if you want to do something with real data. But if you want to really have a nice, innovative submission for this contest, it would indeed be great if you could get something, get that synergy with a less trivial data model, such as document, key value, et cetera, et cetera. We gave a couple of examples of standards that can help you get there, or that can give you some kind of externally validated reference point. But it would indeed be great if you could show some of that nice interaction between those data models with one of the fancier ones. And there's plenty of those.
Thank you, Stefan, Bob, Benjamin. Do we have any more questions about? So we had a question about technology bonuses, and Benjamin started with this today, and I will just repeat that we have an object SQL key value like globals, and your model. All these technology bonuses will give you 2 points, and like packaging stuff like Docker and ZPM for 2 points extra. And this will be published today, so you are welcome to discuss it. So if you have any more questions on that.
And don't forget the special bonus from Raj for spatial.
Right. Sorry. So spatial. It's like your model. In your model, yes. So this, I think, what is special here is a special consulting, special aid from Raj, which you can get from in Discord or on the community if you implement special. So raise your flag that you go with special model and you get the support. Yes, and that's what we're interested in, like a graph or time series, like special and other models. So this will be listed in your model option bonus option. And as colleagues mentioned already, so you shouldn't reinvent the whole wheel by your own. Please take a look what community members already contributed on Open Exchange or somewhere on a GitHub, and you're welcome to use it in your approach. Okay, do we have any more questions? Don't see any more questions today. I think maybe we're good to start. And again, I want to say Happy New Year to all the participants, to our webinar, and to all the future participants of the contest. We are really looking for great contributions, how you will use a unique feature of multimodal of InterSystems Iris. So, and which limited is only by your imagination and skills and developer skills. Yes, and so thank you. Yeah, so looking forward for your great. Yeah, good luck. Yeah.